The man in the coat introduces the small child, revealing her name is Rubian. The older sibling realizes with shock that his little devil sibling was indeed mischievous at dinner. Rubian, the tiny devil, dropped pepper and threatened the narrator for nearly exposing her to father. Despite his suspicion, the narrator covers for his little sibling, viewing it as an older brother's duty. The small girl, Rubian, studiously records her thoughts in a leather-bound journal with a quill. Rubian's brother proudly shows off a new sword, while Rubian notes her intent to become a cool knight. Writing confirms mother's impending return, alongside a warning against writing about the older brother. Rubian is sternly warned to stop journaling about her brother and to implement stricter diary security. A shimmering lock magically seals the diary shut, freeing Rubian to run out the open doorway. The whimsical drawing depicts the family's youngest child brandishing 2 daggers enthusiastically. A startling revelation confirms the family's youngest child was actually a girl. Crows fly over a scorched battlefield strewn with bodies as the man in the formal dark coat walks by, leading a horse. The dark-coated man stands victorious, his sword poised over the bloodied body of a defeated soldier. A severely wounded soldier is impaled by arrows, and the man in the coat questions the noise of the damage. Dismissing the ruin, the dark-haired man believes there are no survivors left on the grim ground. Suddenly, the man lowers his sword, spotting Rubian crouching near a fallen body among the rubble. Rubian, startled and dirty, stares with wide blue eyes directly at the sharp blade of the sword. The man recoils slightly, his expression shifting to one of obvious surprise and concern. He identifies himself as being from the Empire and assures Rubian that he has no intention of causing any harm. Holding a small bag, Rubian looks up as the man guesses she was searching for food. A strong, finely dressed hand reaches out in an offering of aid. Rubian tentatively calls out to the man, who leans in and politely acknowledges the child. Rubian looks up in surprise, her blue eyes wide, wearing a dirty collared shirt. A hint of a smile appears as the man quietly confirms his agreement. The man lifts Rubian, holding her close while reassuring the frightened child the danger has passed. Hugging the child close, the man apologizes for failing to save someone important. Walking away, the man is surprised by the child's weight, unaware of the chibi warning below. Rubian looks up at the man with a small blush, admitting she was slightly startled. Puzzled by the intense stare, the man questions why Rubian's blue eyes are so dramatically wide. The man continues his questioning, inquiring about Rubian's parents or any distant relatives she might have. Looking stressed, the man holds Rubian securely, waiting for a response. He reflects sympathetically on the hardship Rubian must have experienced to trust a complete stranger. Carrying Rubian towards the horse, the man notes the difficulty of leaving this restrictive country without royal permission. Time passes as the mounted rider journeys across the desolate, windswept landscape. Under a starry night sky, the man and Rubian sit by a warm campfire to rest from their journey. The man asks if the child is cold and reflects internally on the familiarity of her face and speech pattern. Tucked into the man's coat, Rubian examines the distinct emblem before the man asks if she feels too hot. Rubian stares in terrified realization as a profound and shocking truth dawns on her. Rubian realizes the imposing man against the fiery backdrop is the very person she had been desperately seeking. Rubian's memories of her past life resurface during the chaos, revealing she has reincarnated into the novel The Sword Planted Upon Ruins. The novel describes a war against dragons and monsters, identifying the soldier as the ultimate hero and protagonist. The handsome hero is dramatically revealed and named as Leviathan Siebert. Leviathan Siebert killed the Black Mage without magic, concluding the original novel's first part. The terrible problem is revealed. The hero, Leviathan Siebert, abruptly dies. Chibi Rubian panics profoundly as she contemplates the tragic early death of Leviathan Siebert. The realization that a Part 2 exists implies the conflict is far from over. The resurrection of the Black Mage happens in Part 2, leading to continent-wide chaos without Leviathan Siebert to stop it. Recognizing her status as an extra, Rubian decides she must stop the Black Mage's resurrection to ensure her own survival. To achieve her goal, Rubian's small hand accepts a simple stick from an unseen figure. Holding the stick, Rubian looks up brightly and asks the mister if he needs a youngest child in his home. Leviathan Siebert dismisses the small child's frantic plea. While lying dramatically, Rubian begs Leviathan to adopt her instead of taking her to the capital shelter. Annoyed, Leviathan questions Rubian about the identity of the youngest. Rubian laments internally that she is worried despite meeting the hero after their shared suffering. Rubian realizes she has forgotten the cause of the protagonist's death from the original novel. A sudden surge of magical energy emanates from glowing hands. In the past, a commanding figure orders constant magical firing to collapse the cliff and block enemies. Rubian reveals her past as a child soldier and mage for the Demon King's kingdom. This stern child soldier, wearing a robe, drags a wounded person across the desolate ground. 4 majestic flags stand tall against the bright battlefield. She reflected that even offering support kept them near death, realizing the world was a book before spotting a black monster. A small, robed figure runs away while a fierce, 2-headed dragon unleashes a fiery Grar attack. Having met Leviathan while fleeing the Demon King's pursuers, Rubian notes one major problem still exists. Leviathan, startled, calls to Rubian, who realizes the hero fiercely hates mages due to an old incident. Rubian stresses about the heavy burden of concealing her identity as Leviathan asks what the child is suddenly doing. Leviathan playfully pokes Rubian's cheek, asking if the kid is sulking over being rejected. The small girl stares in wide-eyed disbelief at the grown man's unexpected sensitivity. Rubian asks Leviathan what he means by the concept of a grown man. The embarrassed child internally protests that being a fugitive doesn't mean changing her gender. After Rubian defends the sulking behavior, Leviathan advises her to sleep for the long journey ahead. As they travel through the green forest, Leviathan gently covers Rubian's eyes with a tap. Clinging to the horse, Leviathan quickly rides away, shielding Rubian from a monster's attack and loud "Gra!" Despite Leviathan assuring her the danger has passed, Rubian lets out a double G-A-A-H and "Ah!" cry of panic. Leviathan apologizes while Rubian cries, distracted by the awful smell of the monster's purple residue. Rubian protests the painful cheek-pulling after Leviathan questions if she is truly unscared. Rubian mentally checks for the perfect herb to draw out the dangerous black monster blood. Looking concerned, Leviathan remarks that Rubian never cried during the scary ordeal. Rubian stares wide-eyed, worrying her lack of tears made her seem like an abnormal child. Rubian recalls that Leviathan's oppressive aura usually caused children to burst into tears immediately. The hero holds the child's stick weapon as Rubian confirms the story's description of Leviathan. She reflected on her past life, where solving problems was more important than crying. Calmly, Rubian explains that crying only led to being told she was too noisy. The horse pauses as Leviathan demands to know who said that awful comment. Leaning in with an intense gaze, Leviathan hears Rubian suggest her mother made the hurtful remark. A finger flicks Rubian's nose, making the child jump slightly. Leviathan grabs Rubian's head, shouting, "Wait!" and asking what the child meant about her mother. Rubian stands among white flowers as Leviathan places a large, comforting hand on the child's head. Holding the quiet girl, Leviathan decides he needs to bandage Rubian's wounded head. The narration describes their bonding journey being filled with harmless jokes and trivial chatter. Conversations filled their journey as Leviathan rode the horse through a beautiful, sunlit path. Rubian asks if the monsters are gone, and Leviathan smiles, confirming they are all dead. The small girl snuggles contentedly against the chest of Leviathan. Rubian reflects on the long, difficult years Leviathan endured to achieve this peaceful outcome. Leviathan looks down seriously, lost in a single, important thought. Leviathan gently pats Rubian's small hand, expressing gratitude for her hard work on the battlefield. Rubian smiles brightly, thanking the man because the world is now peaceful. Rubian happily asks Leviathan to take her in as his youngest child, since he already saved her. A woman attempts to lead Rubian away while Leviathan waves goodbye, causing Rubian to panic about the man leaving alone. Rubian dramatically screams that the world will end if the man, whom she calls an old man, abandons her. The smiling woman, dressed formally, offers Rubian food, noting she must be hungry. The formally dressed woman asks Leviathan if the child eating at the table is cute, while Rubian wonders if she is being teased. The chibi man in the corner says he needs to check something with the director. Rubian looks horrified at the Apocalyptic pasta, fearing this signifies failing to prevent the end of the world. She screams and nearly drops her cutlery as she attempts to eat the dreadful food. Rubian angrily pounds the table, furious that Leviathan left her at the capital orphanage, startling the nearby children. Rubian looks dizzy and panics, thinking she got too angry after arguing for so long. Rubian collapses on the table, exhausted, reflecting that being a wizard is difficult in Bamillion's magic-poor capital. Her body feels terrible, and she laments being abandoned by Leviathan as someone asks if she is okay. A handsome boy with bright blue eyes looks shocked and concerned. The handsome boy says Rubian is good-looking, as Rubian looks up, asking, "Huh?" Rubian says she is not sick, just busy thinking, and decides to listen to the handsome boy talking about playing the hero. Rubian emphasizes that they must save Leviathan, the male lead who is about to die, to prevent the end of the world. Rubian narrates that she is saving the hero, but a sudden schwap sound distracts her. A girl jumps up and A in surprise as Rubian relates that she tried to hide being a runaway wizard while saving Leviathan. Rubian sadly reflects that Leviathan abandoned her coldly. A dramatic scene shows a fallen toy soldier yelling, "Wah!" blaming another for the hero's death. Rubian groans, pressing her face onto the table while the handsome boy looks skeptical of her complicated narrative. The handsome boy smiles brightly amid floating floral designs. A close-up shows a large, warm hand gently touching the handsome boy's forehead. The handsome boy softly tells Rubian he will take the child's worry into his heart. Two children lie on the table, drowsy, while the handsome boy asks if Rubian has finished eating already. The smiling woman, likely the director, asks Rubian what she is doing, shocking the girl. Rubian stares in horror, realizing that the director is preparing for a magic measurement test and that she is doomed. Leviathan stands on a grassy hill overlooking the handsome boy and his attendant. Leviathan ignores the handsome boy, who remarks how open the royal palace grounds feel, wanting him to get to the point. The gorgeous man in the military attire is named Detrian Bamillion, Emperor of the Bamillion Empire. A small white bird sits on a branch, as the Emperor requests cooperation in tracking a runaway wizard. The Emperor floats down gracefully toward Leviathan, while white feathers drift around them. Leviathan thinks aloud, complaining he might have to clean up the mess of the item that fell off the cliff. The Emperor smilingly asks Leviathan to channel his ominous energy elsewhere, fearing his servants will pass out. Looking down, the Emperor questions Leviathan's harsh refusal to help with the magical kingdom's affairs, referencing the old runaway wizard incident. Leviathan abruptly interrupts the Emperor, grabbing his shoulder, while dark energy explodes behind him. The male servant and the maid kneel in fear as the Emperor dismisses them, claiming he is fine. The Emperor tells Leviathan he appreciates the intervention, while Leviathan smiles contemptuously at the Emperor's presumption. The Emperor asks Leviathan if he saw anything interesting upon entering the palace, as Leviathan rides his horse carrying Rubian. The Emperor smiles widely, dressed in ornate white and gold military attire. Leviathan stares ahead intensely with a stern expression. The man reflects that the North is a terrible place for raising a child, noting his 2 sons adapted well, but Rubian might not. Leviathan confirms the danger of the monster-plagued northern region, which is even hard for adults to live in, as he enters a grand area. Rubian smiles widely, happily petting the horse's muzzle, amidst lily-of-the-valley flowers. Leviathan internally decides he cannot bring the child north solely on his own desires and must stop to say goodbye. A man in uniform overhears a rumor about a thief breaking into the royal orphanage and children being injured. Leviathan listens, his expression grim and intense. The screen blurs into a hazy mix of dark and light colors, emphasizing a transition in the scene. A dark, ghostly figure with glowing eyes, the robber, is blasted away by a small girl's unconscious magic attack. Rubian shrieks, cursing the magic-poor country because she is exhausted after using barely any magic. Rubian explains she ran into the robber and caught him with magic accidentally while trying to escape the magic measurement test. Feeling weak, Rubian knows she must flee quickly since she used magic, resolving to find Leviathan and explain first. Rubian walks away through the heavy rain, noticing a collapsed child, but wonders about a risk. Shivering in the pouring rain, Rubian worries about being rejected by Leviathan again. The man in the coat says he wonders what will happen if no one needs him. Rubian decides to stop gloomy thoughts about feeling unwell and insists they must go now. Rubian collapses on the wet ground in the rain, lamenting that she just needs a little rest first. In the rain at the Night Order's temporary barracks, someone addresses a cloaked man as Sir Leon. The cloaked man says the child who collapsed from lack of stamina is fine and should wake soon. Leviathan, looking furious, commands his subordinate to find Rubian, describing her as a child with blue eyes. Leviathan rushes through the rain and catches Rubian, clutching the small child close while the girl's magical residue fades. The man in the cloak muses that the child was from the orphanage and notes how shaken the prince appears. The prince plans for a suitable carriage for Rubian upon their return to Zebert territory. Rubian wakes up with a startled gasp. Rubian calls out to the man, who calmly tells her to relax in his barracks. Leviathan tells Rubian she collapsed from lack of stamina and advises her to eat and rest more, promising new clothes. Rubian looks relieved, thinking Leviathan didn't find her magic item because he only removed the child's outerwear. Leviathan affectionately grips Rubian's cheeks, confirming the girl's fever has gone down significantly. Rubian smiles, reaching up to touch Leviathan's hand gratefully. Leviathan smiles, explaining he rushed back after hearing about the robbed shelter and was shocked Rubian was missing. Rubian takes a chomp bite of the food Leviathan feeds her. Rubian gasps, asking if Leviathan meant he would adopt her as his child, but is immediately cut off. Leviathan gently pushes Rubian's mouth closed, insisting she chew properly and gulp her food. Leviathan smiles, wanting Rubian to live safely in a quiet world. Rubian is shown happily watering flowers in a bright, ordinary, peaceful scene. Rubian insists she feels most at peace when she is by Leviathan's side, even if it means hardship. The small girl looks up at Leviathan with a determined, slightly troubled expression. Leviathan smiles gently at Rubian, the flower background sparkling softly. A peaceful, sunny day overlooks tents set up in a lush green field. Leviathan struggles slightly, carrying the loudly protesting Rubian, insisting she is healthy and demanding to stop stalling. Rubian, wearing a light blue vest, clings to Leviathan, who tells her they should leave if she understands. A clerk instructs Leviathan to sign the documents to guarantee Rubian's status and provide support until she comes of age. Rubian smiles, realizing that guardianship is better than adoption for her long-term plans to depart cleanly. Rubian remembers feeling lost after becoming independent at 17 in her previous life's orphanage. Rubian is determined to prepare thoroughly this time before setting out, while the man signals the next person. Leviathan laughs, apologizing as Rubian vigorously bangs her fists against the man's chest. Leviathan holds Rubian, who waves goodbye to the smiling clerk. A large house stands amid green trees, under a bright blue sky. Carrying Rubian, Leviathan reiterates that the choice is Rubian's regarding where they go. Leviathan promises Rubian that it won't be too late to decide where to live after experiencing the territory himself. Leviathan playfully boops Rubian's nose, joking that the child is not an imprinted baby bird attached to him. Rubian smiles widely, accepting that she is now the youngest of the family, regardless of Leviathan's attachment confusion. A panoramic view shows the snowy landscape of the northern Siebert ducal territory. A stern-looking older man with white hair sitting on a throne asks a subordinate if he brought something. The older man, identified as a father or elder of Leviathan's, covers his face, concerned that his child is up to nonsense again. The subordinate in a suit asks what they should do about the situation. A close-up of a hand suggests a serious decision is about to be made. The older man with white hair fiercely declares they must test if the child is qualified to live in the north. A small, intensely colored rainbow stone causes a brief GUHK reaction. Rubian kneels down, vomiting a multicolored substance and apologizing to Sir Leviathan. Leviathan comforts Rubian, telling her to rinse her mouth with water. Rubian worries that she is experiencing severe carriage sickness because her body is growing weaker. Leviathan tells Rubian she must ride the horse with him instead of the carriage, and is interrupted by a shout. The handsome prince runs up to the two men, who pause while Rubian touches the rainbow stone. The man in the blue military coat is revealed to be named Leon. Leon asks Leviathan what the matter is, while Rubian internally identifies Leon as the old man's loyal retainer from the original story. Rubian notes internally that Leon, the loyal retainer, clearly does not like her at all. Leon tells Leviathan he will ride with Rubian on the horse himself. Rubian, surprised, asks if Leon means her, as Leon explains fresh air helps motion sickness and Leviathan should rest. Leviathan, looking concerned, asks Rubian if she really hasn't slept, as the child dramatically reacts. Rubian realizes with guilt that Leviathan took care of her alone the entire journey because she was bedridden and avoided others. Leviathan smiles confidently, denying he is tired or exaggerating, claiming he slept fine. Leon glares, arguing that even a knight would collapse after barely sleeping for days, and yells the name Leon in frustration. Rubian, holding her bottle, looks shocked, acknowledging Leon spoke the truth. Rubian is determined for Leviathan to rest in the carriage, standing near the horse while Leon pulls on the reins. Leviathan smiles, running a hand through his hair, assuring Rubian he is fine, and telling her to come closer. Rubian, with her arms outstretched, asks, "Huh?" Leon swiftly picks up Rubian, telling her to hurry back and get proper rest herself. Leviathan closes his eyes and smiles in relief at Leon's help. Leviathan rests in the carriage, watching Leon ride away on the horse while holding Rubian. Leon chastises Rubian for her irreverent way of speaking to His Excellency, urging her to show proper respect. Leon coldly reminds the surprised Rubian that she shouldn't expect comfort at the ducal house, even though Leviathan picked her up. Leon sternly states that anyone hoping for a comfortable life in the ducal house should give up. Narration explains that the Zebert territory is a place of constant war, where beasts try to reclaim the land. Leon talks to Rubian, who covers her ears, looking slightly distraught while riding the horse. Rubian realizes Leviathan's homeland was incredibly dangerous. The journey continues as Rubian laments that Leviathan spent 10 years fighting, only to die for nothing. Rubian sits quietly, looking down, riding the horse. The girl shakes her head violently, refusing to feel gloomy, and insists she will do her best once they arrive. Leon looks startled as Rubian clings to him after the desperate outburst. Leon closes his eyes, sighing as the child calls him by name again. Leviathan tends to the injured Leon, insisting they rest and set up camp before moving on. Leviathan looks concerned as he examines Leon's bloody wound. Rubian reassures Leon that there is no longer any need to rush and endure pain. Leon looks momentarily embarrassed, saying that speaking his feelings aloud is awkward. Leon applies a thick, unappealing ointment to his wounded shoulder, confirming he ended the fight with his own hands. Leviathan holds up the round container of ointment, suggesting they should return home in good health. Rubian and a small chibi Leviathan cheer for Leon, who is assured he will heal quickly because his voice is so loud. Rubian opens her mouth wide, preparing to talk about the ointment, having held back because of the tender moment. Rubian yells that the ointment stinks loudly against a stark background. Rubian wrinkles her nose, asking why they still use such an old-fashioned, smelly ointment. Leon glares at the child, insisting that a future knight must be able to endure the odor. Chibi Rubian, wearing glasses and a wizard hat, proudly shows off her improved ointment recipe, boasting that Mage Kingdom medicines are advanced. Leviathan holds a meeting away from the tent while Rubian is instructed to prepare the medicine. Ingredients are shown being mixed into a bowl. Rubian happily mixes the special improved ointment, noting that the Abuelita plant was nearby. Rubian, standing on a stool, hears a voice say, "So this is where you were," and is startled. Rubian looks up, horrified, hearing the person's voice again. A man in dark clothing, with a squirrel on his head, is introduced as calling Rubian his master, surrounded by wolves. The man explains that he found the child trapped in a cave and rescued her. The man, identified as Khalid, pledged his loyalty after Rubian rescued him. The strange man and Rubian share a mystical connection, allowing communication and awareness of each other's life or death. Khalid scolds Rubian for suddenly disappearing without contact, as Rubian apologizes for rushing to meet Leviathan. Rubian looks surprised, asking Khalid how he knew she was in Babylon. Khalid muses about wolf's ears, confusing Rubian. Khalid promises imminent arrival, then abruptly cuts off the connection. Khalid furiously warns Rubian to wait until he arrives. Leviathan shows a clover coin. Rubian offers him a present. Rubian holds the gifted coin, smiling happily. Leviathan thanks her, apologizing for his earlier harsh words. He asks Rubian to call him Senior, not Mr. The man in black formal attire interrupts, questioning Leviathan's title acceptance. Rubian internally panics, fearing she must join the muscular knight order. Chibi Rubian wails that she is unequivocally a mage. The formal man offers ointment mixed with Abuelita herbs. The formal man questions Rubian's knowledge of complex ointment preparation methods. Rubian giggles, confirming her previous knowledge explanation was a lie. The two men are shocked, realizing the child learned complex herbalism informally. The formal man chuckles, teasing Rubian, who demands her medicinal ointment. Having cured her motion sickness, the journey finally concludes. Leviathan rides the horse through the snow, as Rubian marvels at the landscape. Ominous black birds fly above the rocky, snowy landscape. Rubian, cheeks rosy, wonders if this cold place is hell. Leviathan grabs Rubian's cheeks, shouting in surprise. Observing the barren, monster-filled land, Leviathan questions if Rubian regrets coming. Rubian defiantly refuses to leave, saying she doesn't regret it. Leviathan says her answer is sufficient, while Rubian notes the relief and laughter of the entourage. Leviathan points out the imposing Zebert castle in the snow. The Zebert family tree is shown, naming Balrog as the retired former duke and father. Rosetta and eldest son Liam are currently absent, residing in the Southern Territories. Leviathan enters the castle, welcomed by kneeling retainers, impressing Rubian. Maids smile as Leviathan stands tall next to the small girl. Leviathan praises Adolf for his endurance as Adolf questions the child's identity. Leviathan introduces Rubian. The servants stare with glowing eyes, startling the girl. Rubian hides, fearing the carnivorous servants who think she is fluffy and small. Despite her fear, Rubian resolves to properly greet the imposing household staff. Rubian introduces herself formally, announcing her residence in the castle starting today. Rubian innocently asks if the cloak is a washcloth, melting the staff's hearts. Leviathan embraces the child, noticing Rubian's surprised reaction. Leviathan questions her shyness, while Rubian internally protests her perceived delicacy and age. Rubian demands respect at 8 years old, but Leviathan accuses her of lying. Rubian cries internally, frustrated that she had already reduced her age from 10. The maids doubt her stated age of 8, questioning her small build. Leviathan holds the struggling Rubian, playfully warning staff that she might bite. Clinging to Leviathan, Rubian accidentally yells, "Fa!" A sudden crash sounds as someone dramatically leaps from above. The newly arrived young master greets them excitedly after a long time. The energetic second son, Boyd Zebert, leans in close to Rubian. Boyd kneels theatrically, watched by the maid, Leviathan, and Rubian. Leviathan looks satisfied, smiling amid the floral background sparkle. Leviathan praises Boyd, who strikes a proud, celebratory pose. Boyd smiles brightly, revealing his sharply defined canines. Rubian stares at Boyd, who notes the child is surprisingly brave. Narration reveals Boyd Zebert was an adopted war orphan from a cadet branch. Boyd stares at Rubian, who introduces herself while clinging to Leviathan's leg. Boyd laughs smugly, realizing he is older than Rubian, calling her little sibling. Rubian feels satisfied, finally having someone beneath her in the family hierarchy. Boyd smiles broadly, welcoming Rubian as his little sibling to Zebert. Boyd chases the small child, protesting that she is not that small, as Leviathan and the butler watch. Leviathan is informed the old master is too unwell to attend, agreeing to introduce Rubian later. Boyd asks Leviathan, whom he calls father, if he can accompany him to the office, pinching Rubian's cheek. Rubian is lifted high by Boyd, while Leviathan instructs the boy to put his sibling down first. The butler remarks that Boyd has never scored a younger sibling, as the child runs off, promising to play later. The butler praises Rubian for staying calm away from the young master, noting the obvious father-child relationship. An anecdote explains the young master used to cry whenever he saw Leviathan's frightening look and strong presence, leading to distance. Rubian agrees internally that her uncle's face is quite scary. Leviathan restrains Rubian, who is kicking furiously, calling the girl a wild beast. The butler apologizes for the interruption, introducing someone to Lord Rubian. The smiling maid introduces herself as Hazel, Rubian's personal attendant.
Rubian looks surprised, pulling Leviathan's face, asking about taking a bath.
Chibi Rubian eagerly wishes for a warm bath, accompanied by a fluffy animal. The girl worries that Hazel will discover her secret if she helps her bathe. Leviathan gently touches his chest, asking Rubian if she is feeling unwell again. Rubian denies feeling ill, standing up abruptly, which confuses the staff.
Rubian whispers a secret close to Leviathan's ear.
The small girl, blushing slightly, glances up nervously. Leviathan's eyes widen, shocked by the revelation of the hidden mark on her back. Leviathan gently hands Rubian to Hazel, who confirms she understands the head of the house's unspoken request. Hazel takes Rubian's hand, asking if they should go together, and the girl agrees. The butler expresses shock and distress over a large scar on such a small child. Rubian examines herself in the full-length mirror, lifting her shirt. Rubian notes the scar is not the main problem, worried the tree-shaped seal reveals her runaway mage identity. She reflects that the Zebert territory's mana is denser than the capital's, possibly due to former monster territory. Rubian prepares to use the surrounding mana, resolving to hide the seal forever. With glowing red eyes, she establishes a magical circuit to deploy a compensating spell. A brief flash reveals the upper back area of Rubian, showing the newly concealed skin. Rubian inspects her reflection, delighted that the seal is now completely hidden. The girl laughs happily in her oversized clothes. The maids confirm she spent a long time in the bath and agree that soaking in warm water is great in the cold north. Rubian is shown receiving a grateful facial rub from an off-panel hand. Hazel observes her large clothes, noting they need new ones custom-made, since they only have the other young master's childhood sizes. Rubian insists she can just fold the sleeves, finding the situation amusing, but the maids find her effort cute. A voice insists that children must wear properly fitting clothes to avoid tripping, signaling it is time for dinner. Rubian is told the head chef prepared a wonderful first meal and that she will dine with Boyd, since Leviathan is busy. Rubian is thrilled for the fast one-on-one opportunity to settle in with Boyd Zebert. Boyd is described as lively and easy to get along with by the narrator. Boyd holds Rubian high in the air, smiling confidently. At the table, Boyd comments that his little sister needs a lot of care. Boyd offers to cut Rubian's food, thinking the portion is too large, but Rubian declines. Boyd beams as he feeds Rubian a small piece of meat, thinking being an older brother is exhausting. Rubian accepts the feeding, finding the attention comfortable and nice. Boyd reflects that since Rubian relies on him so much, he must take care of her during every meal. Rubian questions why only they are eating and asks about Leviathan. Boyd explains with a smile that their father is busy and usually does not join them for meals. Rubian stares wide-eyed, confirming the fact, finding it unexpected. Boyd reflects internally, thinking Rubian seems disappointed not to eat together, but is more accustomed to dining alone. Boyd takes a bite of food, deciding it is time to take that out. Rubian smiles happily, holding up a small, ornate card book. Boyd screams, "Ah!" falling backward off his chair in shock at the display. Boyd looks utterly shocked and excited, claiming the Hero Collection card is a Capital Limited Edition. Rubian, wearing a blue vest, confidently asks Leviathan for money to buy a card, while two citizens mistake her for a little lady, which she loudly corrects. Leviathan dismisses the Hero Collection cards as cheap and popular with children across the continent. Rubian, thinking Boyd truly wanted the Capital Limited card, decides to buy it as a bribe to prevent Boyd from becoming wary of her. The girl happily pinches her cheek, smiling at the man. Boyd smiles broadly, holding up the collection cards, exclaiming that his father is here too, and reflects that Rubian looks much better when she smiles. A TV version of Rubian yells, "No, I don't want to!" above the image of a majestic castle under a pink and purple sky. Rubian wakes up with a stretch in her bed, realizing she slept really well. Leviathan lounges on a sofa, telling Rubian she looks like she slept well, while Rubian looks up, shocked by his presence. Rubian tells the man good morning, but immediately asks why he is in her room, startled. Rubian, walking on the bed, tells the man not to change the subject, demanding to know why he is there and if he is not busy. Leviathan gently pats the back of Rubian's head, saying he is going now. Rubian asks the man where he is going, telling him to eat a good breakfast. The man, standing in the grand dining room, tells Rubian he has too much work to eat together, as the small girl follows him. Rubian asks the man if he doesn't like eating with Boyd, prompting the man to look back with a serious expression. The man asks if someone said something strange, while Rubian, folding her arms, tells him to never mind if not. The man promises they will eat together once things settle down, telling Rubian he is leaving now, and waving goodbye as the girl waves back. The man stands at the doorway, sighing deeply as he looks back. The man gently touches his face, thinking Rubian seemed fine last night, and feels relief that the child adapted quickly to the unfamiliar house. A dreamy image of a starry night sky shows a ghostly voice groaning and saying, "No." Narration describes the pitiful sight of the small child tossing and turning in a cold sweat, which troubled even stoic knights, while the man gently touches the girl's face and hears her say she will stop it. Rubian runs enthusiastically through a bright green field, holding a stick and shouting she will go gather firewood. The man reflects on Rubian's nightmares, wondering if she is dreaming about the village attack, and noting the child sleeps like a soldier who has seen the battlefield, as a subordinate addresses him. The man looks up, asking the butler, Adolf, why he didn't notice him coming while lost in thought. The man, holding a clipboard, smiles awkwardly, claiming he was too busy and lost in thought, having a ridiculous thought for a moment. The man reflects internally on his inability to understand Rubian or treat Boyd properly, thinking there is no father more pathetic than this. The butler, Adolf, informs the man that the reply regarding Rubian's stay has arrived just in time, handing him a sealed letter. A close-up shows the small, handwritten letter, which states, "All right, I'll hear it after I return." Adolf laughs lightly, saying that would make sense since Rubian is the first child the man personally brought in, before asking when Rose said she would be back. The man looks at the letter, which repeats the message, "All right, I'll hear it after I return," and adds a postscript asking, "Not a girl, right?" A promotional banner encourages readers to visit the website and support the team. A shimmering hand holds up a hero card featuring a muscular, partially draped man wielding a sword. Boyd smiles, clutching the glowing hero card and a leather-bound book. Boyd runs through the hallway, excitedly proclaiming he is going to play with Rubian with this. Boyd shouts, "Rubian!" in shock as he stumbles and drops his hero cards onto a table, scattering them. Boyd, standing with outstretched arms in front of Rubian, shouts aggressively, "What do you think you're doing?" 3 maids in black and white uniforms stop in shock, one holding large scissors. Boyd shouts fiercely, demanding why the maids are bullying his sister, while one maid protests they were only trying to trim young Master Rubian's hair, and Boyd calls her a liar. Boyd pushes the terrified Rubian behind him, clutching his face protectively, as Rubian moans. Ugh! Leviathan enters, demanding to know what all the commotion is about, as Boyd clings to his leg, and Rubian insists she is really okay. Leviathan glares intensely, with a small chibi boy shouting above him that Rubian is not okay and was shaking because of the scissors. The man commands Hazel, the maid holding the scissors, to put them away now, and she replies, Yes, sir," looking distraught. Rubian, draped in a white sheet, is shown being pushed gently onto the floor as Hazel apologizes profusely. Young Master Rubian. Hazel and two other maids cry dramatically, with Hazel apologizing for being so focused on making Rubian presentable that she didn't notice her shaking with fear, and claims she will pay for this disloyalty with her life. Rubian, looking utterly overwhelmed and distressed, tells the maids, "I'm really fine, so please stand up." Leviathan praises Boyd for protecting Rubian, giving him the hero card, while Boyd proudly claims it is only natural as the big brother. The man then addresses the maids, asking them not to be mad, while Rubian pleads for the man not to be angry at them. The man tells the maids he will let their transgression pass for Rubian's sake this time, but warns there will be no second chance, which the shocked maids accept with a shout. Rubian reaches up toward the man, who tells the child that not even he has the right to force her to do anything, smiling gently. Rubian, with a determined blush, admits her bangs poke her eyes and asks for a hairpin, delighting the maid, Hazel. Leviathan gently cups Rubian's face, his expression concerned, as the girl looks up confused. The man commands the maids to find something suitable for Rubian from the East Room and bring it here, startling the staff. Rubian, being carried by the man, asks what is in the East Room, while Boyd expresses concern that Rubian looks pale, but Rubian assures her big brother she is fine. The man surprises Boyd by asking if it isn't time for his swordsmanship training, which makes Boyd gasp and try to excuse himself. Boyd shouts he is going right now, fleeing quickly through the doorway. The man, holding Rubian, asks if his face was scary, suggesting that might be why the child was afraid. 3 maids are shown dramatically falling, making a large splash as water erupts around them. Hazel weeps dramatically, declaring she is unfit to be a personal maid for not noticing young Master was terrified, and questions the point of being good at only intimidating people. 2 other maids, crying, suggest they lack finesse from working as mercenaries too long, and worry Rubian might ask for a replacement. Hazel looks distressed, confirming to the other maid that Rubian was indeed visibly frightened earlier. Rubian, angelic in appearance, pleads with the crying maids not to be mad at them, as the man thinks the child has such a kind heart. The maids see a fantasy vision of Rubian as a flying angel playing a harp, resolving to serve her perfectly, so they never make a mistake like this again. A close-up shows a glittering, star-shaped mobile hanging over a candle. A close-up on a lavishly furnished room shows various pairs of small shoes on shelves and clothes hanging below. The maids are shown in the room, reflecting that since the Duke and Duchess decorated it themselves, no one was ever allowed in, and find the hair accessories. One maid reflects that the couple always believed they would have a girl and only purchased girls' items, noting the deceased young lady would have been Rubian's age. A narrative panel details a past event 10 years ago where a mage who had fled the Magic Kingdom begged the Duchess, who was traveling by carriage, for passage across the valley. A full panel shows the pregnant Duchess, moved by pity, allowing the mage to travel with her. The tragic sequence shows the mage betraying them, causing the Duchess to be gravely injured and lose the child in her womb, leading to the Leviathan family's inevitable hatred for mages. A small strawberry hairpin sits atop a pillow on the bed. Maids fawn over Rubian in the mirror, wearing a strawberry hairpin, calling her a strawberry fairy, as Rubian wonders if the girl's item is okay to wear since she is pretending to be a boy. Rubian, with a dramatic chibi figure above her, realizes that the girl's items in a castle full of boys must have been gifts prepared for the Duke and Duchess's unborn child. Rubian, wearing the hairpin and a cloak, wonders if it is okay to wear something so precious, gasping as the man tells her to let me see. Leviathan looks down at Rubian with a gentle smile. The man, towering over Rubian, seated in a chair, leans down to examine the child. Rubian looks away, blushing, thinking she must never let them find out her secrets. She thinks internally that she must keep the secret that she is a mage and that she is a girl. The man, holding Rubian's hand, calls her Ruby, surprising the girl. Leviathan asks Rubian if she was afraid of scissors in the presence of the maids. Rubian, smiling widely and waving her hands, insists she is not afraid of scissors, but was surprised when a stranger held a blade up to her neck. The maids on the floor wail over what they have done to Rubian, as Rubian internally admits it is just tension from the battlefield coming out, not bad memories. The man, running his hand along Rubian's back, says they can cut the hair once she gets used to the mansion, but asks if the tangled hair on her back isn't uncomfortable. The man offers to cut Rubian's hair himself, assuring the child it would be fine if he cut it, since he is not a stranger. A close-up of the man's smiling face highlights his high trustworthiness and skill with blades, but confirms his absolute zero experience in hairdressing. Rubian loudly protests that an inexperienced person is disqualified, shouting that her hair is not a monster's head. A thought bubble dismisses the importance of a hairstyle for a boy, while Rubian angrily decides she will cut the old man's hair, and another figure agrees. Rubian, seated in the chair, looks down as Leviathan stands watching. The scene shows the Zebert family hair salon open, with Leviathan sitting on the floor, attempting to cut Rubian's hair with scissors while two maids watch. A man grabs Rubian's face, asking if her hair is like cotton candy that looks like it would melt if put in his mouth, causing Rubian to scream, "Cancel! Cancel!" claiming a cannibal is here instead of a stylist. The maids shout in panic that the head of the household should not be cutting the child's hair there. Rubian sleeps soundly, cradled in a large hand. Leviathan, holding Rubian, says, "Oh my, you sleep well," telling the child she woke up at just the right time and has finished the cut, offering a mirror. Rubian's face is shown in close-up, now wearing a small strawberry hairpin, with Leviathan's chibi face below asking if it looks good. Leviathan smiles, encouraging Rubian that she could become a hairdresser, as the girl looks surprised. The man holds the struggling child, with her mouth open, as Rubian yells, "Ah!" Leviathan sits cross-legged, scattering the cut hair on the floor, while Rubian crawls away, shocked, as the man confirms, as expected, it doesn't melt. Rubian is pulled up by her yellow cloak by the man's hand, looking up in surprise. Leviathan hugs Rubian close, who protests loudly, "You're so arbitrary, old man!" Rubian stares forward, blushing profusely with tears in her eyes. Boyd gasps, surprised, asking the maid if his little sister was a fairy, while the maid asks what he is talking about. Boyd asks the maids at the dining table if Leviathan isn't eating with them today either, and a maid explains the head of the household is busy reviewing many documents. Boyd smiles faintly, predicting his father will probably always be busy, as he fiddles with his cutlery. Rubian stares ahead, looking disappointed while wearing her new cardigan and strawberry hairpin. A maid suggests to Rubian she should escort her somewhere, as the girl stands up in her chair. Rubian, holding the maid's hand, walks through the hall. Rubian looks determined, accepting the statement that that's the correct answer. Rubian questions the maid about today, saying Leviathan is truly always busy. A maid reflects internally, noting the two have barely eaten together because the head of the household was away, and also because the young master was terrified of him when he was little. The maid further explains that Boyd suffered from indigestion, so they eventually started eating separately, making Rubian wonder if her big brother was that afraid of the old man. An ominous figure of Leviathan appears, as the narration explains the head of the household was very irritable when the young masters first arrived, and Lady Rosetta, who mediated, was ill and confined to bed. Rubian reflects that this must have been when the man lost the baby and fell into despair, causing him to wander for several years. Rubian tells Hazel she no longer needs to go to the washroom, suggesting they return to the dining room. Rubian, with a flushed face, resolves that while it's not right to interfere, she owes them, especially after yesterday's incident. Boyd welcomes Rubian back to the dining room. Rubian asks Boyd if they should invite Leviathan to eat with them from now on. Boyd looks startled, asking if Rubian means father suddenly. The maid asks Rubian if she is still afraid of Leviathan because she doesn't want him to join, but Rubian denies it, claiming that is not the case. Rubian, walking away from the table, states she is no longer scared of her father like in the past. But Boyd smiles broadly, scratching his head. Rubian stands confidently, a slight blush on her face, with devil horns and wings behind her. Boyd looks stunned, sensing a demon? Leviathan is shown working alone at his large, ornate desk, writing with a quill. The man reads a document, telling someone to leave the documents there and go, sighing about how much work there is. A chibi version of Rubian, dressed in a suit and glasses, salutes, saying, "Good evening, head of the household Nim." Rubian hurries toward the desk, clutching a clipboard, excusing herself for a moment. The man, distracted by the approaching child, wonders, what are those glasses? Rubian pops up from behind the desk, holding the clipboard, asking, "What is this?" Rubian looks up happily at the man, handing him the clipboard, with a stack of papers nearby. A detailed document is shown, written in a foreign script with various charts and numbers. Leviathan, holding the clipboard, asks Rubian if she wrote this, and the girl replies with a confident, "Yes." Rubian smiles, pointing, asking the man to please check the supply list here and sign here, right? Rubian runs back, telling the man yes, as Leviathan writes on the papers. Rubian, wearing glasses, points dramatically, declaring that the Duke's attendance is mandatory. Leviathan looks back in surprise, while the chibi Rubian laughs, running away and telling the man he should have been more careful before signing. A swirl of white cloth fills the frame. The staff, setting up the dining room, discusses placing a vase over there, while others carry boxes and decorations, noting it might be too much. Rubian looks down guiltily, thinking everyone's working really hard, and she feels kind of bad. Rubian and Boyd sit on the floor, and Boyd chuckles, commenting that he thought they were just having a simple meal. The chef greets Lord Rubian and Lord Void, asking what brings them there. The chef smiles, holding up one finger. Rubian smiles, admitting she honestly doesn't know much about cake. Rubian thinks sadly about her past life's orphanage, where she barely ate cake, meaning she can't have preferences if she doesn't know anything. The chef offers to prepare a variety of cakes to help Rubian find what she likes, which the girl enthusiastically agrees to. A massive spread of food is laid out, and the chef asks Rubian if there are any textures she dislikes or can't eat. Floral designs float past with abstract sky colors in the background. The excited child in green thinks the grand table spread finally looks like a party. Rubian beams with wide-eyed joy, holding her own cheeks. Boyd greets his father, while Rubian welcomes her uncle, Leviathan. Boyd thinks the staff must have worked extremely hard due to the troublemakers. Leviathan is seated at the table, but questions why he is the guest of honor. The siblings exchange a triumphant fist bump, leaving the man momentarily speechless. Boyd appears bashful and avoids eye contact. Leviathan looks at Boyd, awaiting an explanation for the surprise. Boyd passionately explains that he wanted to hold a welcome-back party. Leviathan slightly smiles, reacting warmly to Boyd's earnestness. He affectionately pats Boyd's head, thanking his son for the welcome party. Rubian emerges suddenly from behind Leviathan's coat, looking shocked. Boyd tells Leviathan he finally understands the reason behind his previous actions. Rubian gives Boyd a pointed, angry glare. Boyd stares forward with a fierce, resolute expression. Boyd shouts, energized, while Rubian happily watches the argument. Leviathan confronts Rubian, stating the war is over, and refers to her as Boyd, as Rubian laughs triumphantly. Leviathan smiles, holding Boyd's hands gently. Boyd points accusingly at Rubian, asking why she is being mentioned suddenly. Realizing the banquet is actually for Rubian, Leviathan calls Boyd, commanding him to catch the running child. Boyd chases the screaming Rubian, who attempts to flee, obeying Leviathan's direction to make Rubian the party's star. Boyd successfully tackles Rubian, happily yelling, "Traitor!"
The boys call the chef, who delivers a towering 3-tiered cake.
With a party hat forced upon her, Rubian internally questions why her welcome party feels like a baby's celebration. A cheerful maid holds up another hat, while her colleagues work hard making decorations for Lord Rubian. Under the nighttime sky, Rubian refuses more food, and Leviathan observes that everyone looks happy with the party. Carried by Leviathan, a sleepy Rubian wonders if she fell asleep, receiving confirmation she was tired from party preparations. The man thanks Rubian sincerely, who yawns and humbly dismisses his effort. Carrying the sleepy child, Leviathan asks Rubian to confirm her bedroom location upstairs. He tells Rubian that if she starts fearing the dark or having scary thoughts, she should come to him immediately. Walking through the glittering blue hall, the man gently wishes Ruby a good night's sleep. Following the safe return celebration and welcome party, the narrative continues. Rubian stares wide-eyed at the excessive amounts of cream cakes surrounding her. Reclining on the chaise, Leviathan observes that Rubian is happily creating snacks on her own. Leviathan playfully confiscates Rubian's snack for being insolent as the child tries to eat it. Rubian confirms the cake is delicious, and the man feels relief that the chef's efforts were appreciated. Taking a bite of food, Leviathan plots to preemptively strike, believing his father, Lord Zebert, is too quiet. A ghostly image of the armored Lord Zebert appears, as Rubian remembers the character was supposed to be irrelevant due to chronic poor health. The quiet atmosphere is violently shattered by a loud crash, shocking Rubian into jumping up. Trembling with fear, Rubian questions if a monster attack is causing the sound. Leviathan calmly tells the child to finish eating, confirming the person responsible will arrive momentarily. A terrifying, armed silhouette of Lord Zebert appears, illuminated by the bright doorway. Lord Zebert cautiously peeks around the damaged doorframe with his spyglass. Lord Zebert's eyes glow intensely as he shouts about an alleged attack. The aggressive man, surrounded by flying debris, lets out a fierce challenge. Rubian wonders if the bedridden Lord Zebert is carrying a weapon, while Leviathan demands why he keeps breaking doors and scaring the child. The enraged Lord Zebert shouts violently to bring the new kid immediately. Leviathan points to Rubian, calmly informing the armed Lord Zebert the child is standing directly before him. Lord Zebert bends over, scrutinizing Rubian intently. Lord Zebert glares down at the child with overwhelming intensity. Lord Zebert bellows at the child, calling her a little booger, who calmly denies the label, before Lord Zebert reasserts her as a talking booger. Rubian flinches as Lord Zebert's giant hand pats her head, thinking nervously that she hopes she won't be smashed like the door. Lord Zebert raises a sword high, shouting for Rubian to come closer at once, terrifying the child. Rubian screams loudly, looking terrified by the intimidating figure. Lord Zebert bends down, holding his large axe, measuring Rubian against it as the girl looks on cheerfully. Lord Zebert considers Rubian barely above a low-grade monster, while the girl mentally questions being measured by monster standards. Lord Zebert raises a sickle-like weapon, roaring fiercely, before Leviathan interrupts, telling his father that is enough. Rubian expresses surprise at being expected to wield a sword, while Lord Zebert angrily refuses to listen and demands Rubian be sent back to the capital. Leviathan stares with a severely displeased expression. The man expresses frustration that Lord Zebert mumbles so badly no one understands him. Rubian worries internally about being kicked out, having believed she would be accepted like the other siblings. Lord Zebert points to Rubian, shouting that the child looks fragile enough to dent if she bumps into anything. Leviathan declares that Lord Zebert cannot decide Rubian's future, and treating her like a soldier is unacceptable. Lord Zebert angrily rejects the notion of treating Rubian like a soldier, blaming Leviathan for failing to bring a worthwhile candidate and bringing a doll-like child instead. Standing between the two angry adults, Rubian dramatically shouts that she doesn't want them arguing because of her. Rubian insists loudly she has nowhere else to go and would rather die than return to her previous situation. Lord Zebert looks down as Rubian promises to eat and grow quickly so she won't dent, prompting Leviathan to call out, "Ruby." Rubian looks up with trembling eyes and a sad, pleading expression. Leviathan gently lifts Rubian, who says she'd be surprised if they saw the real her. Rubian is settled on Leviathan's lap, who looks annoyed and thinks the situation is irritating. Leviathan attempts to leave with Rubian for rest and hot chocolate, while Lord Zebert scolds him for being disrespectful. Rubian realizes leaving now would be bad and fears being kicked out if the argument isn't resolved. Lord Zebert stands with crossed arms, internally deciding what he must do now. Rubian clings to Leviathan's neck, who looks exasperated but holds the child securely. Rubian shouts in Leviathan's ear that she will live there no matter what. Multiple thought bubbles appear above the estate, all repeating, "I do," reflecting Rubian's urgent desire to stay. Leviathan sighs and chuckles lightly, gently covering his eyes with his hand while holding Rubian. Lord Zebert looks down as Leviathan, crouching down and giggling, tells Rubian that she has a troublesome booger stuck on her. In a dramatic portrait setting, Rubian faces Lord Zebert for the third Zebert family recruitment interview. Lord Zebert looks severely at Rubian, asking if she truly wishes to remain in the Zebert household so badly. Lord Zebert slams the desk, demanding Rubian prove her worth through stamina or combat prowess. Rubian, wearing a white cape, produces a brilliant display of magic with a wand and top hat, confirming she is a mage. Rubian proclaims her greatest strength is mental fortitude, causing Lord Zebert to stand angrily as Leviathan looks disappointed. Lord Zebert sits back down, fiercely commanding Rubian to finish her snack, shocking the room with his intensity. Leviathan leans in, assuring Rubian that he would never turn the child away. Leviathan corrects himself, clarifying he would never send Rubian away while she is still eating. Rubian flies backward from the force, thinking sadly that she is going to be kicked out anyway. Lord Zebert's intense shouting causes the furniture and snacks to shatter around him. Lord Zebert gasps, realizing he destroyed the cake, as Rubian laments only getting one bite. Rubian, with wide, watery eyes, wonders if this is a Zebert-style mental test to see if she obsesses over the past. Lord Zebert, pointing emphatically at a staff member, orders every cake in the castle be brought immediately, confirming Rubian's relief that it was not a test. A freshly cut piece of strawberry cake is placed before Rubian. Leviathan, smiling, says he has to go check something, with Lord Zebert looking on curiously. Rubian eats cake while the man says goodbye, then worries that the absence is a hint and wonders what she is supposed to do alone. Lord Zebert asks Rubian if she's scared, explaining that beasts often appear here, and a rabbit like Rubian would be an easy snack. Rubian, using a charming facial expression, dramatically confirms she is a little scared. Rubian looks up with an open mouth and wide, appealing eyes, holding her cake. Rubian stares intently at Lord Zebert with adorable, sparkling eyes, mastering the puppy dog eyes attack. Lord Zebert throws his head back, shouting that if Rubian is scared, she must stay, proclaiming he is not trash who would kick out a trembling child. Rubian subtly takes Lord Zebert's hand and whispers that the outside world is scary, so she wants to stay right there with him. Lord Zebert blushes furiously from Rubian's display of puppy dog eyes. Rubian smiles triumphantly, surrounded by floating cats and a small depiction of Lord Zebert groaning, realizing she won't be kicked out soon. Lord Zebert holds up a white garment, commenting that Rubian looks too soft, and asks if she is truly a boy. A maid informs Lord Zebert the tailor will arrive in 3 days for measurements, leading Lord Zebert to fret that Rubian has to live in oversized clothes for 3 days. Lord Zebert vigorously shakes the doll-like Rubian, who screams and asks if he wants to kick her out that badly. Rubian looks frustrated, blowing out a small flame as she tries to speak. Rubian looks up, startled to hear Leviathan call out Khalid, asking if he is there. Rubian dashes toward the man who sits on the sofa, believing she needs the bathroom urgently. Rubian runs quickly past the maid with the dessert cart, telling her she will return momentarily. Lord Zebert shouts in surprise and confusion as Rubian flees. Lord Zebert looks surprised and worried by the maid's sudden statement. The two maids whisper that Rubian is not in the bathroom, but went to her room instead. The maid questions if Lord Zebert is upset, noting Rubian begged to stay, while he kept trying to kick the child out. A narrative box explains that children in the North start life as squires, showing Boyd training by carrying a log and performing a kick, revealing he was determined not to be seen as a weakling. A large white kitten laughs heartily inside a basket next to a ball of red yarn. Lord Zebert explains he'd tried to send Rubian back before the child formed bad memories, but the maid points out that a scary grandfather trying to kick her out is a bad memory. A large white monster with purple eyes appears above Lord Zebert, who asks if he scared the child. Lord Zebert inwardly tries to justify his actions, thinking it was for the best since Rubian wasn't suited for the North, but admits the child was cute. The maid emphatically praises Rubian as not only cute, but brave, facing Lord Zebert without crying. Lord Zebert appears shocked by the maid's observation. The maid continues, noting that Rubian neither cried nor ran away, unlike her other relatives, but cautions that she might start avoiding him now. The maid mentions that Rubian didn't even get to eat her cake. Rubian stands alone in front of a dark, closed door, looking sad. Rubian realizes with wide, terrified eyes that she just gave away intelligence on King Arkan. A menacing, shadowed figure appears behind Rubian, as narration reveals King Arkan knows she is alive and hiding in the Babylon Empire, and has sent pursuers. Rubian gasps, breathing heavily, seemingly hearing the man's distant voice calling her, "Master Ruby." Rubian sits on the floor by the door, composing herself and whispering, "Call," as the man's voice tells her to calm down and that he is coming. Rubian hunches over, covering her face, trembling as she admits she is scared and doesn't want to be dragged back to the kingdom. In a thought bubble, a person tells Rubian to stick close to Duke Zebert because she has skill, and Rubian asks how they knew she was with him. Rubian's unseen friend assures her they aren't angry, wondering how they could ever be angry at her, while Rubian's eyes fill with tears. Rubian smiles, noting the trackers cannot do much since the land of Babylon has no mana, confirming it's difficult for her too. A vision of Rubian and the cloaked man sitting back to back appears in a sparkling, cool light. Rubian stares intently, realizing she shouldn't just sit around and needs to prepare. Rubian, dressed in a detective hat, analyzes the evidence. The most likely enemy is monsters, as the original story lacked logic. A numbered narrative confirms the time of Uncle's death. In the novel, the man reconciles with Boyd when he's 12. Rubian sits alone on the floor, thinking that all of this is just guesswork. Rubian closes her eyes as magical energy streams toward her. Rubian opens her eyes, which are now red, surrounded by glowing, churning water magic. Floating in a field of stars, narration describes a sea of countless magic formulas called Wizera, the wisdom of the world. The wisdom taught Rubian every magic circle in the world, allowing her to be a capable mage, despite low innate mana. Rubian questions if the presence needs help, confirming her identity as Wizera. Rubian smiles, happy to be recognized by Wizera. Rubian rejects the suggestion, stating what she needs is not this, while a surge of energy bursts forth. Rubian floats peacefully in the starry void, holding a small ball of light, saying this magic will let her protect her uncle. Rubian bursts into the room, startling Boyd, shouting his name. Boyd asks what Rubian wants, holding a book, looking surprised. Rubian pulls on Boyd's shirt, demanding she be shown if he wrote about her. Rubian lays on the desk, claiming she's lost, leading Boyd to offer to retrieve a map from the bookshelf. Boyd smiles, telling Rubian to be careful, as he already knows the risks. Rubian whimpers dramatically on the table, clutching her head as Boyd reveals that the grandfather once took him and Liam to the northern mountains at night for training. Leviathan leans through the open door, asking Rubian why she is still awake, while Rubian asks if he is working there again. The man explains he is only checking on Rubian before leaving, as Rubian, in bed, realizes the man is making kids' room rounds because Boyd's room smells like him. Leviathan asks Rubian about her stomach, mentioning he heard the girl suddenly ran off needing the bathroom. Rubian smiles, insisting she is totally fine, claiming she wasn't sick to begin with. The man sits on the edge of the bed and pats Rubian's head, asking if his father bullied her to make her stomach hurt, but Rubian denies it, saying she just needed the bathroom. The man stares intensely, wondering if the old lord dislikes him, and resolves to remove the northern annex passage. Rubian, wearing pajamas and a nightcap, stares wide-eyed and alert. The man smiles reassuringly, surrounded by soft light and flowers. Rubian, sitting up in her green sweater, thinks this is strange, feeling uneasy that she doesn't care if others use her.
The man watches Rubian, who is lying on the bed, thinking she is about to sneeze.
The man looks away, deep in thought. A large hand hovers over Rubian's back as the girl lies face down. Rubian reflects that she thinks about the day her lies will be exposed, as the man chuckles, calling her a little brat and gently rubbing her head, which Rubian protests. Leviathan tucks Rubian snugly into bed, who sleeps soundly with a teddy bear. The man sits, rubbing his forehead in despair, telling his foot to do whatever it wants, reflecting that Rubian is constantly anxious about him leaving.
The man bends over Rubian, looking concerned, as the child stirs and murmurs.
The man lifts the girl, who murmurs, No, I don't want to," cradling her. The man carries the child through the glittering room, reassuring her to tell me what's wrong. A notice panel explains the translation source. A glorious light illuminates a figure with long white clothing looking down from a high balcony. The figure with long white clothing, likely the King of Arkan, addresses a small figure below as my lovely seventh child. The king reaches a shimmering hand out to the bandaged child, reflecting that it tears his heart apart to think the child was hurt so badly fighting for him. A close-up shows the king's hand gripping something tightly. The king lifts the small, swaddled child, emphasizing that the child must be careful when catching the warlock and be brought back alive, since that is the reason they are waging war. The king, shown with glowing red eyes and a sinister smile, emphasizes that the continent's scum, especially not Duke Zevert, must not take her. The small figure looks up, saying, I disobeyed orders." The child in white clothing smiles broadly with red eyes, saying, "But because of that, I defeated father. The king figure screams, "Rubian!" as the victorious child stands on the king's chest, surrounded by red energy. Rubian sits up quickly in her bed, waking from the nightmare. Rubian smiles brightly, wearing her nightcap, saying, "I had a great sleep." Rubian is startled. What? As she notices Leviathan sleeping beside her under the blanket.
Rubian quietly asks, "Brother Boyd, why are you here?" As Boyd yawns and says he came to play cards.
Rubian looks confused as Boyd says he's gonna leave without playing.
Boyd, clutching a pillow, thinks he should have just gone to the bathroom at dawn, leaving Rubian bewildered.
Rubian looks back, wondering if the man is really just leaving like this. Rubian approaches the man on the sofa, asking if her uncle is playing cards in the morning too, and the man simply says, "I just like the sofa." The man yawns, asking Rubian if she likes the sofa enough to sleep over, then quickly shifts topic. Rubian looks confused, framed by small teddy bear shapes. The bright sunlight illuminates the winter castle grounds. Rubian stands in the grand hall, looking up at the butler. Rubian addresses the butler, who smiles and replies, "Yes." The butler laughs softly, holding a statue bust, assuring Rubian that His Excellency is merely reflecting on his actions. The butler thinks that the old duke was mean to Lord Rubian and even left the room in shame. Rubian responds with humility that she is not that kind, asking if the old duke is not going with her today. Rubian looks up, startled as the old duke smashes a statue bust nearby, causing debris to fly. A close-up of the old duke's face, flushing red, shows him shouting in frustration. The old duke stands with a broken statue at his feet, shouting to Rubian that he seems angry, while the butler stands calmly behind them. Rubian stares up, confused, wondering, "I say sorry, but I seem angry? Is this some kind of test too?" The old duke throws his hands out in frustration, apologizing that his words got twisted, stammering he meant to say. Rubian smiles widely, clapping her hands together, surrounded by bright flowers. Rubian smiles charmingly, telling Lord Zebert she was only surprised, not mad, and asks if Lord Zebert hates her. Lord Zebert shouts in delight, hugging Rubian fiercely, causing Rubian to protest about the scratchy beard. Rubian complains that Lord Zebert's beard is prickly against her face. Lord Zebert questions where Rubian got cute items like her strawberry hairpin and sack-like clothes. Lord Zebert stares away, admitting to himself that he understands. Lord Zebert bellows that they are heading out and asks if Rubian truly cannot ride a covered carriage. Rubian thinks of the Northern Dukedom, seeing a fantasy vision of Lord Zebert riding a horse and a black wolf beneath him, feeling intense and intimidated. Rubian sees villagers greeting Lord Zebert warmly. A boy shouts proudly about swordsmanship practice. Tradesmen greet Lord Zebert, offering him quality meat they just received. Lord Zebert struggles under baskets of gifts, rejecting more items from a woman and a child with flowers. Lord Zebert orders his attendant to store everything in the annex, while a servant offers his gift, too. Lord Zebert grabs the child, shouting that they must run quickly or be stuck there forever. Rubian reflects that this overwhelming welcome reminds her of when she first came to Zelox. A close-up shows a dangling sign for a tailor shop. Lord Zebert is furious upon learning from the maid that Madame Eveline is away for days, and he must dress Rubian in ready-made clothes. Two shop workers giggle, calling Rubian a cute young lady and asking her preference in clothes. Rubian gasps in shock and embarrassment at being mistaken for a girl. The shop worker apologizes for mistaking Rubian for a young lady, while Lord Zebert angrily attributes the confusion to Rubian being too tiny. Lord Zebert playfully teases Rubian by patting her head hard, making the girl shriek and protest. Rubian is secretly relieved, realizing she was startled, thinking she was caught. A shop attendant sighs, resting her chin in her hand,
looking mildly irritated.
Rubian is dressed in a pretty green and white outfit with a bonnet, smiling sweetly.
A graphic advertises, touring the Zevert territory with Rubian, welcoming tourists to the area. A cheerful graphic warns that the Zevert estate is packed with demonic beasts, including a 3-headed dragon and a muscular wolf. Rubian winks, flashing a peace sign, announcing that the beasts led to 2 famous local specialties. The first specialty is the weapons industry, featuring a magnificent sword and axe forged from exceptional minerals found there. A panel explains that the mineral wealth attracted skilled craftsmen, eventually causing the entire continent to seek weapons produced there. The image shifts to the smithy, filled with glowing furnaces and laborers, introducing the smithy owner, Maddox. Maddox, smoking a pipe, asks Lord Zebert if the child is his late addition, judging Rubian's small size against the old lord's enormity. Lord Zebert rages at Maddox for smoking near a child and for calling Rubian his son. Maddox apologizes for his nonsense, then offers Rubian a chance to try forging as an apology. Maddox lifts a heavy hammer and a bucket of molten metal, suggesting Rubian start by sorting leftover metal scraps instead. Lord Zebert looks furious, shouting that Maddox should stop rambling and hand over the sword already, while Rubian laughs gleefully. Lord Zebert, looking serious, wonders what he should do since the forge is too dangerous for a child. Rubian smiles brightly, assuring Lord Zebert that she will be perfectly all right. Lord Zebert instructs Rubian to stay close to the knights outside and warns her not to go with anyone offering strawberry milk. Rubian dashes off, telling Lord Zebert she understands and will be back soon. Lord Zebert, deep in conversation with Maddox, questions the use of the material for the grip. A handsome knight in blue uniform is startled as Rubian calls him Mr. Sir Leon. Rubian, smiling innocently, looks confused when the knight, who had told her to call him senior, gives up on the correction. The knight asks Rubian where she wants to go, as Rubian energetically gestures to the distance. Rubian points to a magic stone shop, explaining she marked it using Void's map. A fun graphic highlights the second Zevert specialty, magic stones, which are described as pretty, cheap, and cool. A demonic beast falls, dropping a glowing purple magic stone, confirming that higher-grade stones come from stronger beasts. Magic stones are shown crafted into intricate jewelry, noting that when processed, they become magic tools. The narration explains that since Zevert has frequent beast subjugations, the Magic Kingdom imports stones to process into magic tools for massive profit. The knight holds up a shimmering purple magic stone as Rubian beams at the display. The knight remarks that the stone's color is nice, but too heavy to wear, suggesting a similar colored gemstone instead. Rubian smiles knowingly, confirming the Magic Kingdom keeps the stone's use secret, calling the pale purple ones barrier stones. Rubian knows the Magic Kingdom is protected by an ancient, lost barrier created by those tools, making it a fortress. Lord Zebert bellows at Rubian about what she is doing in the shop, and Rubian states she has no money, surprising the knight and Lord Zebert. Lord Zebert glares angrily, shocked that Rubian has no money, while Rubian quietly asks when Lord Zebert arrived. The knight demands to know if Leviathan gave Rubian no allowance, and Rubian looks puzzled. Lord Zebert violently grabs a bag of money, demanding Rubian tell them what she wants, while the knight loudly tells Rubian to speak, stating it's an order from his senior. Leviathan, in a grand uniform, appears at the door, thinking his timing is perfect. He looks down sadly, realizing the child is sulking because he didn't give her proper allowance. Rubian jumps up and down, insisting dramatically that she is not sulking. The man crouches down with a kind smile, patting Rubian's head lightly. The man looks sincerely at Rubian, asking if there was something the girl wanted. Rubian, blushing, admits she wants something, but claims it is not needed immediately.
Lord Zebert, the knight, and Leviathan all peek over a partition, sharing a knowing, amused moment. Rubian points to the magic stones, claiming she will buy one of each, then covers her face in embarrassment, realizing it's too much. Lord Zebert points emphatically, instructing the knight to summon the owner, stating he is purchasing the shop and demanding the price be set high. Rubian holds the deed, seeing Lord Zebert giving instructions to only send purple magic stones, as she mentally notes to inspect them for miasma and wrap them in strawberry paper. Lord Zebert adjusts his collar, questioning Rubian if that is all she wants, while Rubian laughs, wondering if she really just bought an entire shop. A large hand quickly gestures, telling Rubian she can visit anywhere else she wants, terrifying the child with the sudden movement. Rubian clutches the deed, shouting in fear as the large hand nearly touches her. Lord Zebert, carrying Rubian, rides away on a horse at high speed. Rubian, riding behind Lord Zebert, expresses amazement at how cool the old lord was earlier. Lord Zebert lies injured on the ground outside the castle entrance, with Rubian crying out for the old lord. Leviathan apologizes, explaining that the horse was stung by a bee and went wild. Rubian, slightly startled, is comforted by the man, who says everything is fine thanks to the old master saving her. Rubian looks away from the man's comforting touch, still seeming troubled. Lord Zebert, seen from the back, angrily blames his useless body for the fall. Rubian looks up, holding the man's hand tenderly. Rubian lies on the floor playfully, surrounded by many stacked presents, while the maid watches from the side. Rubian happily confirms she got to look around the castle. The maid opens a box, looking surprised to find a pile of magic stones inside. A panel displays various small pots of fresh green herbs. Rubian, running excitedly, tells the maid that the herbs can be planted when the weather warms up, hoping that happens soon. Rubian questions the maid whether Leviathan spent too much money today, and the maid dismisses the thought. The maid looks at the massive pile of gifts, deciding they should place another order once Lady Evelyn returns. Another maid asks a colleague named Hazel to cut a piece of fabric for her. Hazel smiles ominously while holding a dagger, confirming there are pictures for cutting the fabric, making Rubian scared. The butler offers pain medicine to Lord Zebert, who lies in bed, but Lord Zebert refuses, saying they are useless. Lord Zebert scolds the butler, asking if the nose candy and the allowance pouch were packed correctly. Rubian is shown happily surrounded by precious jewels, saying it is fine to have them. Rubian struggles with a sack, suggesting she carry the heavy goods, then complains about the weight, thinking she should buy a few more shops. The butler stands over the injured Lord Zebert, asking if he is all right and urging him to see a physician. Lord Zebert violently dismisses the butler, shouting for him to get out and insisting he is not in pain. The butler notes that Lord Zebert lost his balance and fell today. Lord Zebert remains seated, glaring silently at the butler, who apologizes and departs. Lord Zebert internally curses his useless body, unable to protect something small. The butler bows and takes his leave, while Lord Zebert thinks he is sorry. A fierce warrior figure, called the Mad Lion of the North, commands a retreat amidst a hail of magic. The narration explains his appearance on the battlefield alone crushed enemy morale, showing him being treated by medics. The war against the demonic beasts broke out, but Balak Zevert could not participate due to his injury, leaving a deep scar on the knight's pride. The butler, standing by the staircase, notes that since then, Lord Zebert has become more withdrawn and his temper rougher. Rubian holds a neatly tied parcel in front of her, looking concerned. Rubian quietly approaches Lord Zebert, who is asleep in bed. Rubian stands by the old duke's bed, applying a cloth with ointment to his knee, explaining it feels cool and nice, though she can't guarantee the effect since she made it from bought herbs. The old duke, with his bare foot visible, remembers Rubian's parents were healers, which Rubian awkwardly confirms. Rubian reflects inwardly, smiling sadly that she told a lie like that. Rubian confirms to the butler that she knew the old duke's knee was in bad condition, astonishing the butler since no one told her. Rubian explains that the old duke slightly drags one leg, and the sound of his heel hitting the ground is different. Rubian recalls the old duke staggered to the right while avoiding the horse in town earlier. Rubian looks distressed, reflecting that if the old duke keeps enduring the pain, it will only hurt more. The butler, touching his chin and blushing slightly, realizes that's why Rubian made the ointment, wondering where such a person came from. The old duke gasps, claiming his knee suddenly feels extremely hot from the ointment, as Rubian's chibi figure smiles, reassuring him it will be fine.
The old duke stares ahead, enduring the sudden heat from the ointment.
A close-up shows the old duke's face reddening, clenching his eyes shut in pain. Narration reveals the only times the old duke had ever cried were when the lady of the house passed away and when his granddaughter was born dead. The panel explains that the old duke tried to go to war to cover for his despairing son, but his body would not obey him, and he could not go. Rubian looks contemplative, thinking she made the ointment really big, but it's still not enough. The butler smiles warmly, telling Lord Rubian she is already more than enough, just as she is. The butler suggests they leave so His Excellency can rest, and offers to escort Rubian to her room, as the girl agrees. The butler leaves the sleeping old duke, wondering if the third apology was enough this time. White birds fly over a fortified island city in a brightly shining sea. A long-haired figure sits on a large stone throne, holding his head, grieving. Ah, my seventh child. The figure with long white clothing clutches his head in anguish, crying out that his child has left his embrace once again. The seated figure sobs, slumped forward in despair. The figure's face glows red with fierce determination, reflecting that, thankfully, this time the child has a physical body. The figure orders his hooded subordinates to dispatch more tracking mages across the continent and search every region thoroughly, regardless of age or gender, since a physical body leaves traces. A hooded figure bows, confirming, "Yes, master," as the king states he must reclaim that child no matter what. The silver-haired figure smiles malevolently, noting that child is absolutely necessary to summon the great black mage once more. A flash of red eyes shows the young Rubian figure, who is a grand mage who inherited Wajeria's wisdom. Hands exchange glittering purple gems, followed by a bright burst of light and power. Multiple versions of Rubian stand around a table overflowing with shining purple gems, enthusiastically cheering, "Hiya!" Rubian sighs, wiping her forehead, wondering how long it takes to activate the power of a barrier stone, thinking this isn't some factory. Rubian, standing in the grand hall, surrounded by the shimmering gems, feels overwhelmed, asking, "When am I ever going to finish all this?" Rubian smiles happily, reflecting that Grandpa has made eating meals together a routine now. The old Duke and Leviathan sit at a table, enjoying food while the old Duke pets Rubian, who is sitting on his lap. The old Duke pinches Rubian's cheek, making the girl shout, "Ow!" asking how she is supposed to eat like this. Rubian runs off the old Duke's lap, threatening to leave if he keeps teasing her, but the old Duke claims it is just teasing for taking a little bribe to look at his knee. Rubian looks angry and shouts, holding her cheek. Rubian cries that she was just trying to hide her healing spell while pretending the relief was the medicine taking effect. The old Duke holds his knee and asks if the genius apothecary could take a look, making Rubian yell for Grandpa to give her back her ointment patch if he keeps messing with her. Leviathan glares, questioning the term grandpa, insisting it should be grandfather, while Rubian concedes,
Okay, fine. Just no more teasing." Leviathan holds Rubian, looking at the old duke. The man, holding Rubian, tells the old duke to please stop picking on the child, saying she already got treated properly. The old duke laughs, claiming he teases them because he finds them adorable, bragging that ever since he started using the medicine that little rascal gave him, his knee has been in great shape. The man, holding Rubian, tells the old duke he shouldn't tease if he's improved thanks to Rubian, and no beard attacks either, as the old duke agrees to stop if Rubian tries calling him grandfather. Leviathan looks utterly shocked by the old duke's request. The man stands over the kneeling old duke, who is still begging him not to leave, as Leviathan thinks adoption isn't easy, and Rubian's wishes matter most. The old duke looks heartbroken, wondering if that little one wasn't staying permanently, claiming the thought of that little one disappearing makes him. The man reminds the old duke he was desperate to kick her out at first, which the old duke vehemently denies ever saying. The old duke shouts that just seeing that kid breathing clears 10 years' worth of pent-up frustration, asking how he is supposed to live without them now. Lord Zebert shouts, "Never!" in fierce refusal, gesturing wildly with an open hand. Lord Zebert bellows loudly in an intense close-up shot. Rubian, represented by a chibi figure, announces the completion of preparing a box overflowing with glittering purple gems. Rubian stands over the empty box of shining purple stones, delighted that she finished the secret work. A quick sequence shows the others distracted, the maid with a package, Lord Zebert busy writing, and Leviathan raising his hand in farewell. Rubian holds up a purple magic stone, confirming that preparing it for crafting makes using it easier, though time-consuming. Rubian, dressed as a chef, thinks that preparing the magical tools this way greatly enhances their effect. She looks intently at the polished stone, realizing the barrier will now last semi-permanently without requiring constant mana input. Rubian holds a glowing, shimmering map of the town, explaining she wants a powerful, long-lasting shield that detects and blocks intruders. Rubian relaxes in a chair, noting the magic stones and circles are ready, but the problem is tricky placement of the stones around Zelrox. Rubian, blushing slightly, thinks checking placement in person is best, but questions where she should put the stones. The knight and his subordinate draw swords quickly, speculating that the person who entered might be a spy and ordering their detention. Rubian jumps up in alarm, pointing and shouting for her sir. Rubian holds her face in distress, realizing her eyes are currently red from using magic and that she must change them immediately. Leviathan approaches Rubian, gently telling her that her eyes are red. An advertisement requests translators, proofreaders, and editors for the website. Rubian stands tiny before the man, thinking nervously that Leviathan must have found out her secret. The man cups Rubian's cheeks, looking concernedly at her. Rubian quickly lies, claiming she stayed up late reading an interesting book, thankful she changed her eyes in time. Leviathan lifts Rubian, asking if he needs a reason just to see her, and Rubian denies this awkwardly. Rubian's heavy winter gear, a fur-lined coat, boots, and mittens, is shown scattered quickly on the floor. Rubian, bundled in the cozy attire, thinks the man's reaction feels strange, asking if she looks like she's sulking. The man, holding the scarf, contemplates the child's question. Rubian happily walks in the snow with the fully armored knight. Rubian smiles, holding a wooden stick, eager to begin. The knight warns Rubian to watch where she's going, or she might trip. The knight asks Rubian what book she was reading so intently, while Rubian, excitedly holding the stick, claims she borrowed them from the library. The knight asks Rubian if there is anything else she wants to do besides studying. Rubian's eyes shine as she shouts that she wants to take swordsmanship lessons. The knight looks surprised, asking if Rubian wants to train because she is a northern man. Rubian reveals her secret motive,
Becoming a knight makes going out and about seem less strange, noting Boyd often toured with the Knight Order. Rubian thinks that becoming a knight will naturally allow her to figure out the best place for her barrier stones. The knight agrees to the request, telling Rubian she should also mention if she needs other studies, and Rubian gleefully agrees. The knight looks off sadly, realizing Rubian plans to stay there permanently. Rubian beams sweetly, dressed warmly for the cold. The knight thinks he needs to find a teacher, as Rubian asks if she can take lessons with her brother, Boyd, but the knight considers it too much for her. Rubian smiles, confident that she will get first place next term, while a speech bubble states that Boyd is already in the upper level of the academy. Rubian suggests taking lessons from the knight uncles, unaware the knight thinks they won't leave her alone. The knight pats Rubian's head, telling her to be prepared since she has made up her mind. A dark illustration of 3 sinister knights laughs, asking if she is Ruby and if she wants a snack. The shadowy knights in Rubian's imagination welcome her, finding her tiny and perfect as the youngest. Rubian shivers, feeling overwhelmed just by the imagined knight's gaze. The knight tells Rubian that there hasn't been a rookie in the knights for years, making the girl look confused. A chaotic fantasy image shows knights enthusiastically tossing small boys into the air, emphasizing the difficult path ahead. Rubian, visibly shaking, whispers to cancel her request, but the man says a man doesn't go back on his word. Rubian stares up at the knight, looking terrified and defeated, realizing she is doomed. 2 knights pump their fists, shouting that Rubian has finally decided, and they have been waiting for this moment. The knights crouch and cheer for Rubian, welcoming the youngest. Rubian smiles, overwhelmed with a sense of excitement and resolve, proclaiming she will be made into a gallant man of the North. A stern knight introduces himself as Oberon, the vice commander, noting the order is merit-based with no honorifics. Rubian, dressed in a new, fitted knight uniform, salutes smartly. Oberon comments on the fitted uniform before stating they should begin basic training. Rubian, seen running in the distance, collapses in exhaustion, thinking she has only run 2 laps. A knight announces the children's version of training in a small training ring. 2 miniature versions of Rubian run laps in a small circular arena under the supervision of Oberon. Oberon holds up a tiny sword, announcing the next activity is swinging a small sword, finding it still potentially dangerous. Rubian smiles, enthusiastically swinging the small sword. Oberon decides horsemanship is essential, ordering a passing knight to become the youngest's horse, who appears in a comical horse suit. Rubian rides the human horse, trotting along as Oberon watches with a determined expression. Rubian looks off thoughtfully, perhaps finding the training unusual. The knights lounge around, and one volunteers to give Rubian a ride, commanding the horse to lift its legs properly. Oberon congratulates Rubian on a good day of work and announces they will tour the city walls tomorrow, exciting Rubian. Rubian, blushing happily, thinks the commander will appreciate her attitude of wanting to try everything. Oberon asserts that the Zevert Knight Order must maintain dignity and train constantly to avoid bringing shame upon his grace. The supposed commander, Leviathan, is shown relaxing and sleeping under a tree.